The waking dream is a type of prophecy that we all have access to. It's just a matter of learning how to and what to look for and understanding how dreams work in general. So the connection of brainwaves and REM sleep, waking sleep, hypnosis, and somehow deep meditation, it all ties together. Through dream travel, you can access these inner worlds and visit these temples, go into classrooms, meet these guides, these dream teachers. You kind of lose the fear of death and you realize that we're like an onion. The outer layer of the onion is like the outer shell here, this physical body. When you remove that garment, it's like walking through a door. It's like an initiation into the next plane, like the astral plane.
Our potential, it's exponential.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. Today, I have a very special guest, Neil Primack. Neil has been on the show before, and he just gifted me one of his books, Suddenly Out of the Blue, Insights into Life's Unique Communication from Waking Dreams and Synchronicity. Waking dreams, soul travel, we're going to get into all that today. Neil, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Jack. Thanks for having me again.
Heck yeah. Yeah, brother. And you came prepared today with art and readings and
books,
so much.
Art, poetry.
Heck yeah.
And prose, and you name it. We're going to really try to dig in deep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm excited. I've been preparing for a long time.
Amazing. So what do you want to get into first?
Well, first I want to welcome the audience because, I respect that it takes a lot of time to listen to this. And I respect that. And we're going to be digging in deep into taking quite a bit of time to tell quite a few stories and a lot of other things. So,
thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, and a shout out to my mom and dad. My dad's 90. He'll be 92. My mom's in her late 80s. So they'll probably chime in at some point and check this out. So, I never really told this story about myself in this fashion. And I've been in satsang classes for 40 years. So this is like a satsang class. It's not an official satsang class.
Mm-hmm.
And, we talked a lot about, last time we met, a lot about my own personal life, personal information. We talked about shadow work, conditioning, how to unlearn things, surrender, how to be love, the definition of satsang, how to get quiet and be still, and the importance of that. So I'm excited to unpack that even further. And I know I talk pretty fast, so my apologies for that.
No, brother.
Especially in the last two episodes, I was going a mile a minute. And I felt little time pressure to get a lot of information in there. So I'm going to try to slow it down a little bit.
That's a good idea. I think we're a little more open-ended too. Yeah, let's let it flow today.
Yeah, just to let everybody know, nobody is sponsoring us. And we're really kind of funding this ourselves, and we're doing it because we love it.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Neil.
Yeah.
That's it's from the heart.
Absolutely.
No one's sponsoring it. So let's get into it. So we talked about all those things, unlearning, unconditioning. What are some of the other kind of special experiences you've had, or insights you could share with the audience today?
Well, the theme for today is the dream of soul, awakening to love. And in talking about that, we're going to highlight what's called the waking dream. And the waking dream is a type of prophecy that we all have access to. It's just a matter of unlearning how to and what to look for and understanding how dreams work in general. So we're going to dig into that, and I'm looking forward to that. It should be fun.
Sounds perfect, brother.
Yeah. So I just want to go back to the last one of the segments I read last episode 20. It was very good, by the way. And we talked about the Eckankar consciousness, which is self-realization, and what that means. I just want to go through it one more time, briefly. So that which this is on page 6 and 7 of the Shariak Kisug Mad, book 1, and out of my book 2. And I know a lot of my Ek friends around the world are very familiar with this, so that's good. That which exists as it is beyond all understanding. Now, the word it is actually just another word for God, or we call it sugmad, or this divine it. Okay, this ocean of love and mercy, they call it too. It has a lot of, they describe it in many ways, what this thing is, this life force, this breath of life, which I know we talked about a lot last time too.
So beautiful. They call that what? The shar.
Well, this is the Shariat Ki Sugma, this book, and I will say something about that, because the Living Shariat, it says the Shariat is merely a translation and comes out in different ways. With a certain person as the vehicle, it comes out as poetry. With others, it comes out as parables and stories. And for another, it comes out as prose. This Shariat is drawn from experiences of initiates as they go through the lower worlds, meet hardships in life, as we often do. And as we meet these experiences, there is always something more to be learned. And so, this Shariat concept is, it can be translated sometimes in different ways, like poetry and music. When somebody's improvising, it just comes out like naturally, and without trying, to do without doing, kind of thing, right?
The Shariat. Right.
So this segment from the Shariat about the Ekshar says, that which exists as it is beyond all understanding, but whoever knows this realizes that the realization of it is not an understanding alone. It is understood only when the chela allows it to swallow him and digest him. When the chela lets himself surrender to it, it accepts him as a divine channel to be used in all the worlds of the universe. And I made a little note here, yet maintain the middle path while doing all with love. Identify everything with love. So those are my own notes in the book.
That's beautiful. The middle path. Yeah. Explain that for people, Neil. Because what you're talking about is like living like the way, right? Is that what you said? The living way.
The way, to be love, to do what you love, and also to do everything during the day with this idea that you're doing it with love, or to find the love in everything you're doing. And it's interesting that it mentions that, allowing it to digest you. Like, what's that mean? How do you surrender to this force, this creative force, which is really right here inside of each of us? And how do we surrender to it? What are we surrendering? What are we letting it digest? And ultimately, we're letting it digest all the things that get in our way, all of the passions of the ego, the anger, and the frustration, and the jealousy, and the resentments, and the intolerances we have, and all of these things that kind of bug us. We're trying to surrendering our grief,
It just digests that.
Well, you're giving it to spirit. We're giving our problems over. We're turning it over to God, to spirit, to it. We're surrendering it. And there's different ways to do that. We could do a visualization technique to do that, and just having it in your mind, in your mind that, okay, I'm going to let this go. I'm not going to cling and keep clinging to this problem. And it's like pulling weeds out of a garden. The more you pull weeds out, the more grow back. So rather than pay attention to the weeds, we're going to pay attention to the ideal of the opposite of what the passions are of the ego, which is more the higher ideals of patience and forgiveness and tolerance and good discrimination, detachment, love, gratitude, and all of those characteristics of the virtues of the higher self, of soul. Divine love. So we're trying to attune ourselves to a higher ideal of the self, a more virtuous practice. And it's not something that just you're born with necessarily.
Sure.
You have to practice these things from day to day and try to be better and everything.
That's right. And that's what we're here doing today. And that's why you kind of got into this Ek teachings and stuff, right? To learn this.
Well, I want to qualify that a little bit, and my wife was very helpful in helping me in qualifying why am I doing this and what I'm talking about, because for years in college and in between believe it or not, I actually spent time in 7 different universities over like 7 different years.
No way.
Yeah, in and out, trying to figure out where I'm supposed to go and what am I supposed to do. It was a bit of a struggle, but I found my way. And in that search, I put a lot of attention on dreams. And because as a kid, I had a lot of dreams, including nightmares, and I was always like curious what dreams were about. So dream, like night dreams when you're sleeping. And
when you were in college, you started to get into this dreams.
Right. I'm going to talk more about that. Yep. So definitely that. And
do you want to get into that now, or do you want to go back to the living Shariat?
I am going to go back to a book called The Way Shower, and read something from that. And then, because I've been contemplating what to do today, we have 2 hours, and there's a lot of subject materials. I'm trying to figure out a direction here. So here it goes.
Yeah, whatever you want, brother. It's a lot of fun already. Yeah.
So we're moving here. So here it is. This is in my book, Discover the Way Shower. And, we all, the Way Shower is with all souls. It's here. This consciousness is with all of us. And in fact, we're one with it. It is part of us. It is us. It's with all life, this inner way shower, the way kind of thing. And it's really tuning into our higher self, soul. Soul is the way shower. And soul, since soul actually exists in a world beyond time and space, in a timeless realm, a formless realm, and some people refer to soul as the field, this ocean, like the entire cosmos that's timeless, and in everything we are here, our mind, our body, our emotions are all emerging out of that. So I'm going to read a little bit to discuss that. So the outer search is a reaching, trying, becoming, wanting, trying to find, hoping to achieve, or reaching a destination type of search. And it involves a tremendous amount of effort and will to succeed. The inner search is a relaxation, a tuning into, a final seeing, an understanding, a recontextualization, a softening and inclusion, and allowing and letting it be as it is. It is effortless and immediately bears fruit. Our mind will fear what is new to it, but it will come to see that tuning into our authentic, eternal self feels relaxing and calming. Remember, you're not trying to silence your mind merely to find the silence that is here already, despite the thoughts. You are not trying to leave the body or do any kind of spiritual acrobatics. You are simply sitting and tuning in, like sitting down with an old friend and listening to what they have to say. Pretty simple. You are not trying to get anywhere. You're not trying to achieve anything. You are simply sitting to notice what is already here. There is no end result we are looking for here. It is enough to simply tune into soul. The practice is simply to take your attention away from what you are aware of and to put it on the awareness itself.
Wow.
Awareness is not a feeling, nor does it feel a particular way. It is just aware. Thinking about awareness leads to a stronger sense of separation. Being aware of awareness will begin to dissolve the separateness. In the end, it'll be seen that there is only awareness and nothing else exists. It is that in which all thoughts arise. Awareness is not a thought. It is that which all thoughts arise and merge back into. We notice that our essential nature is stillness itself. The coming and going of thoughts and feelings is only noticeable to us in contrast because we are watching it from a place that is totally still and silent. This stillness is not simply the absence of movement, but it is in fact the authentic self, the eternal immortal soul that has never moved. Consider that you as soul live outside of time. How could it move? How could it move anywhere? It must be by nature inherently still. The stillness watches all movement that appears within it, but is itself unmoving. We can easily miss this stillness because it is not shouting for attention or trying to achieve anything. We must therefore become more interested in what is unchanging within us. All things come and go, but what we truly are is unchanging and totally still. We cannot make our mind be still, but we can become more interested in the stillness that is ever present. This very stillness is divine love itself. It is that which never moved because it is in all places at all times. Gradually, we come to see we are indeed the stillness itself. No matter what the me is doing, we are and have always been the stillness, and as such are indestructible and not subject to anything such as death and birth, and all fear disappears. What seems to be manifestation occurring is simply beingness appearing in different and unique ways. We simply watch the unfolding occur. So this is this formless contextual field of seeing. We can learn to refocus our attention on the field itself rather than on the thoughts occurring in it. Nothing could exist without this contextual field here first for it to appear in. No thing could appear without the field of nothingness for it to arise in. Sounds pretty deep, right? Form
That's good.
relies on the formless for its existence. This contextual field is invisible, intangible, ineffable, and yet totally here, now, and everywhere. It is omnipresent and never began, nor can it have any ending. Beginnings and endings can only occur to the objects appearing in this contextual field, but not to the field itself. We can begin to see we are the field itself and not what is appearing in it. In truth, we are the nothingness in which all objects are showing up. You'll see that, in fact, you are this contextual field, and the sense of you as the person is appearing in this infinite you. In the end, you'll see that it is the field noticing itself, and that, in fact, you cannot lose awareness of the contextual field because you are the field. So this is a special note from a friend of mine who's in her 90s, and she was my teacher back in 1980, in mid-80s in Boston, and she's still alive today. And I still have class with her today, believe it or not, in the physical plane right here. Up in Stewart, Florida, yeah. I still meet with her and a bunch of other people, and we sit and we discuss these things too. And she said, surrender and acceptance reveals that the trust in spirit will give soul whatever it needs in the moment. Soul needs to know it. It will be known. And she goes, for I of myself know nothing and can do nothing, but spirit through me can serve. The beauty of this realization is called the uncluttering of the mind. The mind cannot know the ways of spirit. Soul in service to God can experience its movement and know now the wisdom and the love now. Know what I mean? From one who knows nothing, now this is spiritual liberation in a moment. These insights came from a moment's notice when a sacred contemplative moment, the beloved voice, spoke to me in the sound of thunder. You know nothing.
Whoa.
When I was given...
Socrates said that, man. Smart. Was he in Eckankar, you said? Or no?
Yeah.
Interesting.
When I was given insight, I would say, I remember this, I know this. In that moment of thinking I know something, I knew nothing. It would fade away like morning mist, leaving an empty longing for something known, yet still unknown.
This is far out, guys.
As soul grows, it also outgrows, and this requires complete trust. But more than this, beloved one, you showed me I had never left home, sweet home. So just a few little snippets of what she had to write, and all of this is in the book. It's lengthy. It's a lot to digest.
Yeah.
You know,
It's good stuff, though, man. I'm glad you brought that up. The way shower.
So this whole idea of this field, right? What is that? Who are we really? Remember the last time we said, who are we really, out of the other book?
Yes.
And it was like, we are this field. We are the ocean. We are like the drop in the ocean within the drop. Rumi.
Yes.
You know, we are this
infinite,
formless field. And everything here, our body, our emotions, all emerging out of this infinite knowingness. But we forgot. Unless somebody can show us how to remember that, we're all lost. We're lost here in the lower worlds of creation, the worlds of duality. We're going over and over again. We come back and back, lifetime after lifetime, because we're lost. Until we kind of reach deep within and start asking, what do my dreams mean? What's this all about? And asking these meaningful questions. So with that, I want to go a little further and qualify that I'm sharing this because of all the dream work I did as a college student.
Yeah, you were telling me you would get up early and write your dreams down.
Right. So
Amazing.
I read a book by Patricia Garfield. I was reading Carl Jungian psychology. I was studying the Dream discourses, which are available to people who join Eckankar, and I was reading a lot about brain waves, biofeedback, and I started writing my dreams down. And I still do today. And I have volumes of dreams. I lost some of them actually in my travels around the country. But
you still write them down?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
I'm going to bring up a couple of recent ones too.
Cool.
But so I set my alarm clock for 5:30. This was based on a suggestion in a book called Creative Dreaming by Patricia Garfield. And also Stephen LaPerge wrote a book about lucid dreaming, wrote quite a few books. So after reading these books and studying some of the science of the brain, like brain science in college, it just drew me further and further into trying to figure out what this all means, what are dreams really about, and also how they can measure brain waves, the connection of brain waves and REM sleep, waking sleep, hypnosis, and somehow deep meditation. It all ties together. All of this is measurable scientifically, and they've measured it at Harvard. They can measure brain waves. When people meditate and go into the relaxation response, they can slow their brain waves down. When young students are doing neurofeedback, using brainwave biofeedback, they learn to focus their brainwaves. So we can actually exercise our brain and actually remodel our brainwaves, literally remodel them and correct attention deficit issues, other issues, even drug and alcohol addiction issues, because a lot of it's connected to us getting a good night's sleep, having healthy dreams, and all this stuff is all connected. And so looking at your dreams is important, and I did write them down quite a bit over the years, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And also something called the waking dream, and we're going to get more into that.
That's exciting.
So for today's satsang, though we kind of started already, I just want to do a couple of you chants like we did last time, just to kind of set a tone for the audience who may want to join us. And for those out there listening, feel free to take notes if you want to. But we're just going to get relaxed and just a couple of sweet little songs, chants, okay? So let's close our eyes. And when you close your eyes, you may want to focus on the third eye. That's called the Tisra Til, the eye of soul, or the window of soul. And maybe imagine like a meadow or a movie screen that you're walking into, something like that, a tunnel, whatever you want, whatever comes up for you. And while you're gazing into your third eye with your eyes closed, you could sing inwardly if you want. You could do this before you go to sleep. You can do it when you wake up. Well, you can also do it actively at a certain assigned time of the day. Like if you make a routine out of it every day at a certain time, your mind will remember it, and it'll actually give you more material to work with. So we're going to do that. Ready? Take a deep breath. Wanted to like share that with the audience so they kind of see what it sounds like. You know?
Lowering the brain waves, I feel it, brother.
Didn't take long.
Really, yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, if you try it for 10 minutes, you'll probably like, if you're sitting up, you might kind of go into a very like in between waking and sleep state, kind of hypnagogic state.
Hypnagogic state.
Yeah, hypnagogia is like the twilight state between waking and dream. Wow. And so it's in that state where a lot of inventors find their inspiration, and there's been a lot written about that, Benjamin Franklin and other people. Yeah, well, they purposely do that, and then if their hand drops the metal balls or something, like that wakes them up, and they keep notes and they write down what they were experiencing, and it's just a way for people to like tap into this field, this ocean of wisdom, this pool of knowledge, and this timeless realm where everything exists in a formless way. And that's where a lot of inventions come from. And I'm gonna elaborate on that further in this discussion.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, just on that point, Dali, he had this school where they would like basically they would drink like coffee and wine and all this stuff and get riled up. And then they would, just before they were like kind of falling asleep, that's when they'd start painting.
Mhm.
And it's interesting that in that
hypnagogic state, yeah.
interesting, that's where a lot of that gets sparked to the field.
Yeah, and think about hypnosis and people who are into like life between life therapies. They're actually putting people into a deep trance, like Edgar Casey and Michael Schwartz. Anyway, there's a bunch of names out there who've done this. There's quite a few people out there who have been involved in this. And I mean, it's been around. And now today they're doing workshops on cruise ships and how to teach people how to access these different altered states of consciousness. And really for problem solving and to get insights, psychotherapeutic, introspective, therapeutic insights to helping people, helping people unpack their emotions in a healthy way. And so,
beautiful.
So I'm going to get into the stories, because the stories is where the rubber meets the pavement, you know. And
your experiences.
Yeah. So
in the dream world.
That's right. So when I was 5 years old in 1965, I had a dream of Paul Twitchell. Paul Twitchell is a dream guide. Here is a picture of him. My favorite picture, because when he appears to you in the dream state, he's got these twinkling blue eyes. And there's a lot of written about Paul Twitchell, and he's written many books. So for those who are curious, there's a lot of books out there on Paul Twitchell. You can find them on Amazon, and a lot of philosophy. And I'll get more into Paul Twitchell in a bit. But he appeared to me, and I was very young, so my cerebral cortex wasn't much developed at 5 or 6 years old, so I forgot about it. I didn't remember about that dream until much later in my 20s. I recalled it because I was writing my dreams down, waking myself up every morning. I was doing a lot of chanting and paying attention. And then all of a sudden, the memory kind of emerged and came to life for me. It's like, oh, yeah, I remember that now. And I also remember, and I always remember this, hearing the sound current. What's the current? Like an electrical current. And it kind of sounds like an electrical current because it's a very high-pitched chirping, hissing, bell, whistling type of a sound. And I was really puzzled as a kid because I couldn't tell if it was like the tension wires which would make a sound or the crickets. So I was like really studying it as a kid. And I finally went to my parents, do you hear these sounds?
I think you're crazy.
No, I don't hear anything. Okay, just checking if I was like losing my mind or something.
Interesting. And you're like, oh yeah, great, I am.
And it was like, okay, it kind of came in, and then if I tried to focus on it, they would fade away. And so the more I tried to focus on it, like it would come in like really high pitched, like a shh.
So it came in it's like a frequency, a current, you're saying.
Like a whistling sound, yeah. And what's that? What is that? And so then eventually it stopped, and I went ahead and lived my childhood out and everything. And so, yeah, my parents couldn't figure that out. Now, as a teenager, I did struggle quite a bit, and I did have like a dark night of soul. It was a lot of drama, and it was hard.
Same with me, by the way, brother.
Really?
Yeah. I'm sure we've talked about it. Yeah, in like teenage years.
Really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Where the hormones are flowing, we're growing, and the new body and hair, and all. It was like trying to figure out what to do. We're being encouraged to go leave the house and figure out what we're supposed to do with our lives at a very young age. And I was 17 when I graduated high school, and I had no idea. Only what people told me I should be doing. I was never from my own self. So. But I emerged out of this like struggle, and I was in and out of college for quite a while. And then I had this dream of being consumed by a fire. And so in this dream, I actually watched myself. I was on a highway, walking on a highway by myself. And then all of a sudden, I kind of watched my body walk away from me. And I was watching myself, and all of a sudden, I saw my whole body be completely consumed by a fire. And then I woke up and thinking, wow. Well, that was really powerful.
Yeah.
What was that all about? And then shortly after that, I read a book by Ram Dass, Be Here Now. We kind of mentioned that last time. And I also studied with a psychic. This was in Schenectady, New York. And this psychic, he was quite a bit older than me, and he was a school teacher. And he was teaching me about tarot cards and number vibrations and astrology and, these different spiritual, philosophical, psychic principles. And I was like eating it all up and trying to do number vibrations on myself and friends. And then I got really sick. And after doing this, it's like dabbling in the psychic. I was like, I couldn't even swallow it. And then I had to take codeine to deal with the pain. And eventually I kind of got through that. And then I went back home for the summer. And I read a book by Eckankar. I discovered a Paul Twitchell in a big magazine called the Yes magazine. This is before internet, so I got all these magazines. This really big book magazine called the Yes magazine. That's what it was called. And I was looking through it. There's all this great literature and books about everybody out there. Theosophy and Carl Jung and Black Elk and Carlos Castaneda and the self-material and channeling material and Edgar Casey and all this great stuff that I was like really interested in. Alternative healing, acupuncture, Ayurvedic medicine. There was all this stuff out there. And then I took a class. And so in this class, we read a lot of books, and one of them was Carl Jung. And Jungian psychology is something talked quite a bit about, a lot, and even in Eckankar circles. And
it's good stuff, yeah, Jungian psychology.
Some researchers throughout history have been able to leave their body and in a dream state actually go and study in these different halls on these different planes of existence and come back and bring a lot of that information out, this shariat, and put it into writing. So Carl Jung was really a key figure in that. And I'm just looking for my Carl Jung book. Here it is.
Yeah, we got time.
Yeah, plenty of time. I don't want to rush this. So,
yeah.
There's so much going on here.
It's great.
So in the summer of 1981, I had a brief vision. It's the first time this ever happened. It wasn't dreaming. I was awake. And the vision kind of shocked me a little bit. And it lasted for about 2 seconds. And in that vision, there was an inner message, like a telepathic message, to read Paul Twitchell's book. Check out the book.
In that little 2-second vision, really?
Check it out, It was like, so then I went ahead and I got this book called In My Soul I Am Free by Paul Twitchell. And in that book, he has an exercise where you put he said, put a quarter on your third eye and lay on your back and start singing you, chanting you. So I did that. And after about 10 minutes, I popped out of my body. And I was hovering over my body. Now, I couldn't see anything, but I just felt like I was hovering without seeing anything the first time.
Doing this exercise with the coin on your
right. And then all of a sudden, I popped back in like a rubber band, snapped me back to my body, And it was a sound like a cork popping out of a bottle, like
yeah,
pop, like that.
Wow.
A little song, like a pop back in.
It's like a cartoon, dude. It's
right.
Insane.
It was weird.
Go on.
So then I was like really intrigued. So a couple of weeks later, I'm working at a hotel up in the Catskills, still working my way through college. And I decided to walk into town just leisurely. And I go into a cafe and that I never seen before. This cafe was never there before when I grew up there. And all these Paul Twitchell books were on the shelf. I'm going, holy cow. I said, I want all of them. I bought like 6 Paul Twitchell books. And I read them all summer long. I couldn't stop reading. I was so taken with what he had to say and what he did. So
what was the main takeaway for everybody? I know it's deep. I read about him. He's an interesting cat. Paul Twitchell.
I'm going to get into that. Yeah. So,
like, he was a rebel too, kind of, like, right? In his own way.
He certainly was.
It's
and
interesting.
I'm going to definitely read a piece about him. And this is the time to do that. So,
cool.
If I can find it. Interplane libraries. So this is what I wanted to say before. So, on the inner planes are libraries connected to these, what they call golden wisdom temples. And I have a painting here just to show you a little illustration.
Amazing.
Of a golden wisdom temple. So here's this painting. And
you painted this?
Right. So I painted this. And there's many others that I've painted. So I feel like
show the camera. So
part of my mission lately has been to try to paint my inner world experiences and put it on canvas, So
perfect. Yeah, so that's a golden
Well, in
temple.
fact, right here in the painting, right here in the painting.
Yeah.
There's a little cave. It's a little doorway.
I see it.
So that doorway appeared to me in the dream. And I'm going to tell you more about that dream.
Right on the lake
here.
there. So this appeared to you in a dream state.
Well, in the dream state, I traveled to this location. So they talk about these temples. And so on the inner planes are libraries connected to these golden wisdom temples. The library alongside the main temple on the astral plane is an enormous place of many roomy departments, much like the U.S. Library of Congress, providing a comprehensive source of books and materials. So people can travel there and study and do research. And he mentions that good researchers such as Julian Johnson, who wrote the book The Path of the Masters back in the 1940s, Paul Brunton, Carl Jung, and others have come in and selected the paragraphs that suited their audience. But there was one who also did this, Paul Twitchell. Now, Paul Twitchell's mission was to clarify, reveal, translate, and illuminate the sacred Ek teachings for all. And Ek is just another word for one or spirit. So spiritual teachings for all. So that was kind of his mission.
And you went to the have you been to the Golden Wisdom Temple?
Well, in this dream, okay, what happened was I'm out of my body and I found my way to what I would call a grid that goes around the entire planet. And it sounds really far out, but it wasn't a dream state. So it's like a highway, a grid highway. And you're in what's called, I guess you can say it's a super physical body. So these temples, most of them are not on a physical plane. You can't really see them. The vast majority are on the super physical plane, like a paranormal plane, a psychic plane.
Yeah.
Some people call it the astral plane. And they exist there where people visit, mostly in a dream state where people can go. And then most people forget about their journeys there. And there's libraries, there's classrooms, there's all this stuff going on.
Most people forget.
Yeah.
So you're saying it exists in our brain?
Well, it's remember the field, this
Yeah.
cosmic ocean. So everything is there, but at
We
different
are the
levels.
field. We are the field.
That's our true nature. But this is the physical plane, and there's many other like layers of reality, like the dream plane, the astral plane. When most people typically go when they die, they go to the astral heavens, and there's different places in the astral plane, places for rehabilitation for people who have had like hard lives, places for people who have lived very like virtuous lives, like a higher heaven on the astral plane. But that's just the first layer of that, and on the way up this like kind of ascending layer of reality. And each plane, the sound and the vibration is different. So
It's like chakras.
Yeah, I guess you can say our chakras are kind of like the microcosm to the macrocosm of the universe. There's all these different planes which somehow line up with our chakras in a way. I'm not sure how to clarify that, except that there seems to be a connection there of some kind. But, through dream travel, you can access these inner worlds and visit these temples, go into classrooms, meet these guides, these dream teachers. Oftentimes they're called masters, like the master craftsman, and we're the student kind of thing. But really, I think we're students and teachers all the time for each other. We're teaching each other all the time.
I love that, brother. We're all the masters and we're all the pupils. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, in just teaching this today, I feel like I'm learning. I'm probably getting more out of it than you are in some ways because I'm teaching it. So you're teaching and learning constantly. So this dream, I access this grid, and within a split second of thinking, it's not even thinking, I'm just putting my attention on where I wanted to go. And somehow I knew where I wanted to go. I don't know how, I just knew. And within a split second, I found myself right to this mountain, this region, which I think was somewhere in Tibet or, I don't know, Afghanistan or Iran, and it's some old Babylonian location on Earth, right?
Very cool.
And I just know I entered this place where you mentioned a lake. It's not a lake. It's actually it was a big whirlpool in this painting. So in this painting, there was just this big whirlpool, and I could hear the sound of a whirlpool, which is one of these sounds on the inner planes, the sound of a whirlpool, like a shh, or flutes. Like you can hear flutes too, you can hear violins. There's all these different vibrations of consciousness that can be heard as sound and also seen as light. And the light can vary from blue to green to orange to bright white and gold and so forth, based on the state of consciousness that you're traveling
Based on the plane you're traveling
the plane
to.
Or your own state of consciousness, your own state of awareness. So So I get to this location, and I found my way to the step right in front of this rock wall. But what I had to do, I had to meditate in the dream state to get in. So I'm like standing there on this precipice, this stone pedestal of some kind, and I'm just starting to go in the dream state. All of a sudden, my body kind of like vibrated and just merged right through this rock wall and inside a temple, which was inside the mountain, like inside the mountain. That's where the temple was, hidden in the mountain. So
and you went through this space.
I merged my vibration to finally get in, and then I was greeted by a guardian. I don't remember who it was, by the way, in this case. And shortly thereafter, the dream ended, and I don't. Again, a lot of it's hard to remember. There's a lot of learning and things going on in these dream worlds, and
You're almost still unraveling it
all the time.
Wow, that's amazing. It reminds me of Lord of the Rings, that scene going into like, where the anyways, go on.
A little bit like that, yeah.
Like,
and some people say, well, you're just
Right.
seeing this stuff on TV and you're just like, but no, this is different, I have to say, because
Totally.
these are some very unique experiences I've had over the years. And
This is unique, brother. But who's not to say J.R. Tolkien, the author, didn't have experiences like this and, in the mountains in his journeys?
Very possible. I mean, people who are great writers and poets and musicians, they tap into the same field, the same ocean of knowledge and wisdom, and they're tapping in. They're dialing in somehow.
Yeah.
They're getting very quiet and still, and it starts emerging out of them. The artwork, the novels, the stories, right? It's coming out. So I want to read something here. So there's something called the inner and outer master. And these are two different aspects. By the way, this is from the book called the Eckopedia. It's called the Eckankar Lexion. This is the most recent book that was published. So it's very fresh, off the shelf. And
Hot off the press.
Yeah, I thought I'd read and make this like a real living Shariat experience for those who are listening. It is the role of the outer master to keep the sacred teachings of light and sound available and attuned to the spiritual needs and consciousness of the people of the day. The inner master, which is the inner teacher or the dream teacher or an inner guide or a guardian, the word Mahanta is used to describe this being, customizes the path to exactly fit the spiritual needs of each individual. This is done via dream teachings, inner guidance, soul travel, and one's contemplation. The inner master is divine spirit itself. So what is that? The inner master, divine, and it's said that the master is with you always, with all souls.
The inner
this inner master, this inner spirit.
It's the divine spirit itself.
Itself, yeah.
That divine spirit, and it's with us all the time.
Right. And my experience is that this divine spirit shows up in many ways as different masters or guardians or teachers based on your own state of consciousness, based on your own past experiences with these teachers who have been here for thousands of years on this planet historically. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more of these teachers. You'll see.
So it's just real quick, you're telling me that each inner journey you're saying is specific to each soul. It's special for each.
It's totally customized for you. It's really a personal journey.
Got it.
And you'll
beautiful.
You get exactly what you've earned, and or what you need to learn.
Yeah.
So there's a little passage here about the Lao Tzu. So Lao Tzu was a 6th century BC Chinese holy man, and years after
he wrote The Art of War. No,
he wrote the Tao Te Ching.
The Tao Te Ching.
And years after his passing, his teachings developed into the philosophy of Taoism. The Tao Te Ching ascribed to Lao Tzu, but may have actually been compiled by others. And so the spiritual hierarchy, there's this hierarchy of spiritual beings that work in these invisible worlds. They assigned a mission to Lao Tzu to take the news of the Tao, the Ek, the Holy Spirit, to the people. So again, the Tao, the way, it's all the same, right?
Yeah.
He went a long way into spiritual unfoldment, having traveled into the first of the true spiritual worlds. He gladly came to earth at the behest of the spiritual hierarchy. His mission was vastly different than that of his contemporary Confucius. Lao Tzu was to teach people about the life stream of God, yet the nearest he could describe it to them was to call it the way.
So he describes it as the way.
The way.
That's
Pythagoras, he was an Eck master in the 6th century BC. Besides being an adept in the Viragi order, he was well known as a Greek philosopher and head of a mystery school. Now, Paul Twitchell,
Interesting.
in a previous incarnation, studied under Pythagoras, who was concerned mainly with 2 points in the teaching of truth. He emphasized love, wisdom, and charity, and he taught that the kingdom of heaven is within man. A notable statement of Pythagoras was, "Ascending into the radiant ether, midst the immortals, thou shalt be thyself a god." That was Pythagoras.
The kingdom of heaven exists within man.
Well, Jesus said the same thing. Socrates was also an Eck master and a well-known Greek philosopher of the 5th century BC.
Amazing.
So, after this experience of feeling my cork pop and being brought into my body, I found a few people in my area who were already involved in Eckankar, who had joined Eckankar, and I had not joined it yet, so I was kind of curious. And Eckankar has been around since 1965. However, I'm going to tell you more about that in a minute. So the next experience, I got invited to a U chant. And they invited me over, and then they told me when I got there, "Oh, sorry, you can't come in. It's only for members." That's not like that anymore, but This was like back in 1980, 81. And
so you couldn't go into the session, the U chant.
I had to sit outside. So I'm sitting outside. I had my black and white waiter clothes on, and I'm pretty exhausted. So I'm sitting in this rocking chair, and okay, I'll just close my eyes and chant you. So I'm chanting, and all of a sudden I started hearing the flutes, like flutes. It was just beautiful. And I popped out and going, what was that? It was like another experience. So I kept getting teased,
Teased? You just heard flutes when you were...
Just the flutes. So different sounds, right? Like the high-pitched vibration, all these different sounds we were talking about, violins and so forth, and bells and chimes, and a lot of religions use sound, like the shofar in the synagogue and the chimes of the churches and all this music to kind of really awaken soul. It's all about awakening the inner body,
That's right.
And so I wanted to talk about this book called The Eck Wisdom Temple, Spiritual Guides and Cities, right here, Cities and Guides. I think I gave a copy of this to you, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go through this pretty quick, okay? So
Go for it.
These are the 10 spiritual cities on earth that are here to help this world. There's 10 of them, they say. And it's basically you're traveling there in the soul body by invitation only, at least this one place called Agam Des. And the beings here are in charge of the secret forces of the cosmic energy which affects human history. That's just one of them. There's another one in the highlands of Guatemala, and the spiritual travelers here are still connected to the ancient civilization of the Mayans, and they promote the ancient mysteries of the once powerful Mayans and Aztecs. There's another city in Andes Mountains between Venezuela and Colombia. And the beings here are descendants of the Incas, and they keep watch over the planetary spirits. And then in the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, north of Turkey, there's another temple. And the beings here are the protectors of the mind of man. They help spread Buddhism and uplift the Oriental mind. In Africa, on the border of Uganda and Zaire, there is a temple. These are all temples on the superphysical plane or the dream world. The beings here help with the care of souls that leave the body at death. There's also one in England, the legendary Camelot area. It's on the superphysical level, again, as are most of the others.
Interesting. So they're here on this world, but you can only access them.
The dream or soul travel, right?
Interesting.
Another outpost is in the mountains of northern Spain, the home of the brown-robed monks. And they're concerned mostly with healing principles and physical phenomena. They call one Shambhala, which is in the Himalaya mountains. And they keep a vigil on the physical aspects of world evolution. And then there's one other in the ruins of Memphis in Egypt. And the beings here were responsible for the pyramids and the mystery religions of ancient Egypt and the metaphysical systems of old Greece.
Wow, I'm interested in that.
It's all cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
So there's also a long list of different teachers and masters in this booklet, and anybody can get this booklet. There's one master or teacher who was around during the King John of England and during the signing of the Magna Carta. And in fact, as you study this, at least I have, I've seen this pattern throughout history, how there's always these teachers in the background, like helping others,
Like when the Magna Carta is being signed, he's like
there's
a master in the
teachers and
backdrop.
masters that are working with the other people very quietly because of the persecution.
Interesting.
There was another master during the reign of Constantine. There's another one, Chu Ko-yan, who was during the time of Confucius. There was Epictetus, was a 1st century AD in Rome. He was a Stoic philosopher who taught in Rome during the 1st century AD. And there's another one, Fubi Quantz, who I'm going to talk about later. He was during the time of Buddha, around 500 BC. And he is the head of the monastery in northern Tibet. He was a teacher of Firdusi, the Persian poet. He was also the spiritual guide for Columbus and encouraged his voyage to the Americas. This was all in a dream state, by the way. 3000 BC in Egypt, there was a teacher who founded the mystery cults of Osiris and Isis. 3000 BC. And then there was one 490 BC in Persia. There was another teacher during the Trojan period of Greek history. In the 18th century, there was a master teacher at that time. During the reign of James I of England, there was an advisor who was also an master or teacher. In China, 490 BC. And the list goes on and on and on. It's just like one after another.
Wow.
There was one in Stockholm, Sweden, in the 18th century. It's like all over Europe and the Americas. It just goes on and on. Charlemagne, Alexander the Great, these periods. 1000 BC, the Assyrians, in the time of King David the king. There was another teacher during the king Hakamonash of Persia. Another one during the early days of Greece. There was an 11th century Tibetan saint, Milarepa, very famous. There's a great book about him, by the way. And Milarepa, we talked about Milarepa before. That was in the 11th century. And 35,000 years ago in the Indus Valley, there was a teacher who appeared there 35,000 years ago. So this goes way back. And there was another one during the time of ancient Egypt who helped write the Hammurabic Code of Laws. There was one who lived in Greece during the time of the Trojan War, Julius Caesar. He foretold the death of Caesar, this teacher. Another master came during the Golden Age of Greece, responsible for building the Parthenon. And Athena was one of his early followers. There was another teacher of the 6th century BC. Athena was one of his. Pythagoras was in the 6th century. And there was others, and it goes on.
It's interesting, makes math, algebra equations, or like solves them.
Oh wow!
And he's an
teacher. They didn't call it Eck back then. They had different names for it. Paul Twitchell really created the word Eckankar from ancient Sikh philosophy from the 1500s.
Got it.
And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. In Rome, during the early years of the Republic, there was an Eck master. There was teacher of Rumi. That's Shamasi Tabriz was the Persian poet, teacher of Rumi. Also, sometimes people can smell a scent, like jasmine and other aromas, when there's a teacher or a master present. You may not see them, but you can smell a scent, like a beautiful aroma.
Wow.
And there was another master who lived in Alibad, India, and taught Paul Twitchell. His name is Sudhir Singh, back in the 40s and 50s. So I think that's enough of that, because there's more.
Yeah, that's a brief history, but that's deep, man.
I want to talk more about the story. So after I had this flutes experience up in New York, I decided to move to Santa Fe, New Mexico. I had this really strong instinct that I need to go there and study naturopathic medicine. So when I got to Santa Fe, I had 3 suitcases in tow, a duffel bag, and I didn't know anybody. My parents thought I was crazy, but I said, I'm going. Right. I went by myself on a plane. I was really like in culture shock. And so when I stayed in a hotel, the next night I was hitchhiking to the school on Upper Canyon Road in Santa Fe, and this kid picks me up. He's an acupuncture student. He says, "Oh, you can stay with me. We'll split the rent." And it was a good deal. So I said, okay, sure. And then when I got there, the lady next door was an Eckist. No, I didn't join Eckankar yet. I read about 7 books already by Paul Twitchell, but I hadn't.
Wow.
So I
Your
said,
first
well,
day there, she's like,
second day there,
wow.
she was right there, and I said, well, I want to join Eckankar, but I really don't have that many money yet. I'm not working yet. I need my money for school. And she says, I'm going to give you the money you need. And I found a check for $70. And now it's 120, but this was in 1981.
Right.
And it was in 1982, I forget.
To get you in the game, to get you in Eckankar.
She gave me the check, and I signed up for the discourses. And 2 months later, I had a dream. And I was already writing my dreams down at this point. And in a dream, I was approached by an inner guardian, a teacher, and I felt like a bullet. I heard a gunshot, really loud one, and I felt like a bullet had pierced my heart in this dream. And then when it happened, it was like, whoa. And then it was like, I just felt this love kind of like trickle into my whole body, like just, and I woke up. And so that dream was like, it's hard to describe because it really got me started, And some writers talk about how it repolarizes the subatomic particles in your inner bodies, and all this cool stuff happens. But during these these events in the dream state, right? Whatever you want to call it.
So chemically,
these meetings.
So you actually might have been transformed, actually chemically.
Well, some people refer to it as a rechemicalization of your body and mind and spirit. Yeah, it's like reacclimating you to a higher state of consciousness. So that was one of my first most significant dreams. And,
amazing.
So after this dream, I was like, I joined Eckankar right about the same time, and when you join, you get a discourse.
Got it.
And it's like, you're supposed to read one per, there's 12 of them, read one per month. And you could do it on your own, or you could join a class. And the whole idea of these discourses is actually an internal rhythm too. So you're reading philosophy and stuff about dreams and soul travel and meeting these masters and so forth, and going to these temples and all this cool stuff. But it's really an internal rhythm that you can't see. It's really kind of tuning. It's like it's all internal.
Beautiful.
It's really hard to find the words.
But it's like it's an exercise you do to go deeper into this.
Right.
work.
You're contemplating it. You're reading it. You're contemplating, thinking about what you read, and trying to take it to the inner, to the dream world, and to the soul travel planes and so forth. So
that's beautiful, dude. So what you're saying is it's an inner rhythm,
right,
to it. Like
there
that's
is.
kind of beautiful.
There is an inner rhythm that's
it's like the
hard
garden.
to explain.
It's like the seasons of the world, right? So like every month you read a new one.
Right.
I think there's a lot going on each month.
Not only that, in fact, if I go back and read this now, when I read 40 years ago, it's like reading it all over again, like for the first time, because I'm reading it from a totally different state of consciousness.
Whoa, yeah.
So then a few months later, I was in Eckankar, and I met a few Eckists in Santa Fe. It was about a handful, 5 or 6 of us in Santa Fe. And so we decided to go to a seminar up in Denver, a 6-hour drive, and there I meet the current living teacher, Harold Klepp, who is the author of this book, the Equipedia. And
you met him?
I met him. Actually, he was giving a talk, and I was in the audience. And for his talk, there was many other talks and musical, things going on. And I felt like he was looking at me the entire time he was talking, like right at me. And so that's what a lot of people say. This, like, it wasn't him physically. It was like the inner teacher within. And I felt like he was talking right to me.
Like addressing
right?
you.
But then he got off the stage and went around and actually shook hands, which he doesn't really do much anymore because there's too many people involved. There's Eckankar is in 120 countries.
Yeah.
And there's about 50,000 people worldwide who are members of Eckankar. 50,000. It's not big like a religion, but there's a lot of people involved.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, 50,000. And so at that time, 40 some odd years ago, he would get off the stage and he walked around and shook hands with some people. He looked right at me. And in that 1 second, I had this experience, which is, they call it the Darshan. So
the Darshan.
The Darshan is the meeting with the master, which can take place inwardly or outwardly. One form of the Darshan is the gaze of the master, or the Tiwaja, which has the power to uplift and heal all things.
The gaze of the master.
There are 2 parts of the Darshan: meeting with the master outwardly and being recognized by him, and meeting with him inwardly and traveling with him, seeing and being seen by him, and the enlightenment which comes with this act. This is the gaze of love, the gaze that gives the love of God to people. For some reason, I'm not a big lover of the word God, because I think, religious wars and God, everything in the name of God. And I have this like negative feeling about religions and dogma and God.
That word, right?
Yeah.
But we could substitute it, like you said, we just use the word it.
Spirit, Sugma, whatever you want to call it, right?
Sure.
So
but I know what you mean. Yeah.
So after that experience with Sri Harold Klemp, or we call him Haraji, I had, from years after that, numerous experiences in the dream state, and I recorded these with other masters, quite a few others, 4 or 5 or 6 other masters, Light C, Rebbe Zartaras, Gopal Das, Ruby Quants, and a few others. So these are the real names of these masters who appeared to many people in this teaching, this Eckankar teaching.
Wait, so you're saying all those people, you saw them in a dream state?
I've met them.
Wow.
In classes, and sometimes a cave, like a hidden cave. I didn't know, I was in a dream state, so I would find myself in this cave in a class. And
so when you come out of this, Neil, what do you have, like, is it just more insight? Is it just deeper faith in it? What do you get from it?
Well, it really built my confidence that there was a reality, my scientific understanding of dreams and brain waves and philosophy, ancient teachings, mystery schools. I started putting it all together, that there was a reality. I wasn't just imagining this. It wasn't just an ordinary dream. There was a reality to it. And then, of course, I heard about other people's stories from around the planet who are writing in to Eckankar saying, I had this experience, one of these masters, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, wow, so other people are having this experience too. It's not just me. Right. I'm not some lunatic here,
that it's reality. That it sinks in.
If it happens too fast, it can destabilize you. So they try to gauge this unfoldment based on your ability to handle it little by little. That's why
based on your capacity.
Right. So they want you to read one discourse a month rather than the whole 12 discourses all the time. That's too much. You can overload too. So
makes sense.
There is a way to kind of pace yourself properly. Okay. And so by the way, in Santa Fe, when I was there, I had a bodywork experience where somebody was doing cranial sacral therapy on me, and I heard the sounds of violins, and it sounded like a symphony of violins, and it was extremely uplifting. It's like the kind of vibration you wish you can go back to. Wow. Very uplifting, unloving. Yeah.
Just from getting body work done on you.
Wow. So I'm back at college again here in Stony Brook, New York, studying physical therapy, and I had this dream. And in the dream, I found myself pinned to my bed, like I was paralyzed. And I was in the habit of chanting quite a bit already, like outwardly, when I was awake, and writing my dreams down, like waking myself up at 5:30 in the morning, every morning with a little flashlight pen, writing my dreams down, writing them over and over again, really into it. And then I had this dream where I literally lifted. First, I felt paralyzed, and like a lot of people have that feeling, like you can't move your body. It's common.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I'm in my dream state. I'm starting to chant, and then as I'm doing this, I'm lifted out of my body, and I'm hovering in the air. And my body starts to spin, and it's spinning really fast. And then light is kind of coming out of me and going like I'm like a gyroscopic, like one of those dance things, those balls.
What?
So this light is like coming out in all directions, and it's going faster and faster. And then it felt like a locomotive train was going right through my room, like really loud, like whoo, like really loud. Wow. It was like I'm spinning and the light's blasting through me, right? And so I wrote a poem about this.
Amazing.
So this is from 1983. And this was shortly after an initiation, by the way. So I'm sleeping, then dreaming, paralyzed by an unknown being. Fearing, I'm singing, you. Rising from my shell, lucid as well, hovering, suspended. Suddenly I'm spinning at supersonic speed, with light blasting, bathing, and piercing completely through me, purifying, cleansing, clearing, and healing, atoms realigning, polarizing, also freeing, a cosmic centrifuge, designed to awaken without being shaken, a sound so loud, a locomotive shrill, emerging and blowing, without knowing where it's coming or where I'm going. Awaken I do, with all of it coming out of the blue, smiling I am, heart opening again. Wow, what wildness, becoming more childish. Forever is this space, as heaven is no place, but for a state of grace.
Beautiful.
So I call that the centripetal cosmic centrifuge. All my poetry, by the way, and my books are on my website, soulvisionscapes.com.
Yeah, check it out, guys.
So,
soulvisionscapes.com.
Yeah, all my poetry, the books, my paintings, everything.
Can people support your artwork too?
There is a way you can buy, a small thing for a couple of dollars or a big one. You can customize it any size you want. You can.
Cool.
There's all this AI technology in the online gallery to see if it fits your wall properly, if the colors are right. It's all this cool stuff.
Cool, man. Yeah. Your artwork is beautiful, Neil.
Thank you.
Don't you guys think it's so good?
So let me just mention that I moved to Boston after that, after I graduated, and I had another waking dream in Boston. So this is where the waking dream comes in. And in Boston, after being there for a couple of years, I kept seeing the signs of Santa Fe again. Trains, Santa Fe. Car license plate, Santa Fe. It was like everywhere. I'm going, Jesus, what's going on? I have to go back.
Yeah.
But before I went back, I had another out-of-body experience. And this was not a dream, by the way. This was where I was contemplating in the seated position, and I popped out of my body. And in this case, I met a neck master. His name is Fubi Kwan. So here's a nice picture of him.
Fubi Kwan.
Yeah. Beautiful almond eyes, dark eyes. And he's been around for a long time. I mentioned him earlier, Fubi Kwan.
Fubi Kwan.
And
it was a waking dream, you call it.
Right. Now, in this dream, this inner soul travel experience, he was showing me an experience I had as a 13-year-old in a canoe trip. So in this canoe trip, I was steering the canoe, a bunch of Boy Scouts. It was like 6 canoes, and we were in the lake, choppy lake, up in the Adirondacks. It was cold, it was dark, it was raining, and we're out in the lake.
This actually happened?
Yeah, this actually happened in the real life when I was 13. And my dad was a scuba guy, so he gave me this life vest, which was inflatable. It wasn't the regular life vest, so most of the kids had regular life vests. So for some reason, this boat went by real fast, created this big wake, and we were all like steering it properly, diagonally, but the kid in the front got scared for some reason, and the canoe went under the water really quick. Like within a second, we were submerged, and I was under the water. The weight of my clothes was dragging me down really heavily. I had my jacket on, my shoes, everything. And I'm like under the water. It's dark and freezing. I'm going, okay, I got to find this cord. So I find the cord, and I'm pulling, and nothing happened. And then I said, okay, I better pull it hard. And I pulled it, and the whole thing, blew up, and I came to the surface. So this experience was a shock for me. And it actually kind of helped me create the cocoon I needed to create to go through my struggle and to emerge out of that. It's all part of the play I created. And so...
that you created here.
Right. So I decided to do a painting on this one too. And this was a painting of the lake in Old Forge, New York. And you can see like a little person there. We were portaging here. Portaging.
And that's the lake. That's your experience.
Well, it's
depiction of it. Yeah.
It's just a little depiction of it. I just did that, and so
Fubi,
that was special.
So Fubi Kwan came to you and kind of guided you back to that experience.
Well, he showed me it was like a life review, and he was showing me a part of my life, and we were reviewing it. It happened pretty quick, and he looked at me. I got the Darshan from him in the dream, in this out-of-body experience, this gaze
of love.
And I felt the love. And he showed me this holographic video presentation of this life experience. And, I'm still digesting it, believe it or not, because it's so profound. This was like going into the unconscious, into the dark, under the water, and then coming up and getting a breath of air, breathing in the spirit. So it has all these metaphors connected to it. And so Fubi and I were walking along these pebbles and trickling water. It was a very beautiful dream experience. Well, not dream, it was a soul travel experience. So this was happening when I was totally awake, but in the deep contemplative reverie, kind of deep and meditative state, and having this soul travel type of experience. So after all these signs of seeing Santa Fe written on every license plate around me, I decided to move back to Santa Fe.
Of course.
Like so many years later.
Of course.
And I had a job right away. We were doing home care as a physical therapist. And I met a gentleman who turned me on to a technology called the electroacuscope. And we talked about the acuscope in the last session, so I won't elaborate on that too much. But I did write a book about that. And it's called Whispering Currents. So here's the book called Whispering Currents. And this is all about my electroacuscope experience. And part of that experience is that I had a dream where I went inside the instrument and was traveling down the circuit pathways of this instrument. And then I popped out of the dream with this big aha feeling, okay, I got to really study this technology because I need to figure it out, And then I started to use it regularly every day for the next 20 years on my patients to treat all kinds of ailments, orthopedic, neurological, working in prisons, hospitals, private practice, home care, osteopaths, chiropractors, acupuncturists, really immersed myself into that world of holistic health and healing. And it was really a great experience.
Through electric currents.
Well, my main focus was electromedicine and hands-on too. I did a lot of osteopathic massage, craniosacral work from my hands-on training from many years prior to that. So that was all good. This You song is for everyone, regardless of their religion, race, or creed. And
the You chant we just did.
So many years later, I had another experience in the dream state where I'm traveling back to Santa Fe in the dream state. And in this dream, my daughter was with me and my wife was with me in the hotel in Santa Fe, one of my favorite hotels called the Inn de Loretta. And Sri Harold Klemp, the current teacher, the lead teacher, the Mahanta, was there in my daughter's room teaching her how to do the You. And I get up and going, what's he doing in there? So I go after him and he comes out and he has a disguise on, right? And so I approach him and I pull the disguise right off of his face and I look right at him into his eyes. And I said, I knew it was you. And then he goes, come with me. So he takes me downstairs in the hotel and he points across the street to a bookstore. And I woke up. And I woke up knowing that it was time to publish my first book. I got this big aha in the dream state that it was okay to publish. So I got this inner guidance to publish my first book. I don't have that one here.
In your dream state.
Yeah, the first book is called Breaking Through. So we call it that.
Beautiful.
It's a small little book.
How many books have you written at this point?
It's 5.
Yeah. When was that in Santa Fe, that first book?
Oh, that first book I wrote in 2015. I was here in Florida.
That's what I thought. It was recent. You wrote all your books.
8 years ago. Yeah.
Amazing.
So, these spiritual teachings are very personal. They're individualized. They're very different from dogmatic religions. Very different in that sense.
Totally. It's kind of like what we're talking about. It's kind of like maybe puts some people off or like is too woo-woo for, not believable, maybe. So what do you think about, is that the reason why it's not so prevalent in our culture, or is it's special? Like, I'm interested in it, and I'm sure our audience is. I'm just curious, like.
Well, this classroom of life is has this revolving door where people are maturing and kind of maturing out, and other new souls are coming in, more like violent, animalistic, acting like animals, like immature souls. And others are kind of graduating because they're learning how to resolve their karma by walking the middle path more, more like practicing detachment and patience and love and forgiveness and gratitude and trying to, be a model for love,
So, what we talk about. And you're saying they almost just like move on to the next, like, naturally.
Everybody has a unique, customized destiny or purpose. I have found myself teaching in the dream state also, other people.
Wow.
So I don't know where it's all going to lead. So I'm very trusting that, I'm being taken care of. You kind of lose the fear of death and you realize that we're like an onion. And the outer layer of the onion is like the outer shell here, this physical body. And then when you remove that garment, it's like walking through a door. It's like an initiation into the next plane, like the astral plane. And the astral plane is where all UFOs and psychic phenomena and all that stuff comes from. Ghosts and paranormal phenomena, it all comes from that plane. And I'm going to read something here about that.
So you slowly like peel those onion layers back, right?
Yeah.
So what's at the center of the onion?
Well, you get to the astral plane and the causal plane and the mental plane and the etheric plane, and finally soul. So there's all these layers to the onion, which make up who we are, these very complex beings. We have a mind and emotions, right? It's all part of us. But so all these initiations that are taught about in these teachings are about kind of repolarizing our subatomic particles of each of these inner bodies so they're more aligned with this return flow of energy back to the center of creation, which is this field, the true self, the higher soul, the immortal part of ourself that is timeless, is formless. It's all about getting you in touch with that part of yourself, which is you are a soul,
Right.
and
Source.
everything else is a temporary garment that we're wearing to like learn and grow and unfold. And we're just here to watch it, to observe manifestation, and not to try to change anything. There's no, we have get ego out of the way.
Totally. We are soul.
We are a soul.
Neil, this has been amazing. What I know, we got into a lot of stuff
Me
today.
too.
What is there anything else you want to get into before we
There is.
leave?
Remember,
Let's
this
do it.
theme is the dream
Yeah.
of soul, awakening to love. And this waking dream, I want to read one more thing, but the waking dream is really an interesting phenomenon. And if I can find it here. So Carl Jung, he was having discussions before World War I with Albert Einstein. And he corresponded, it's when he first used the word synchronicity. And Jung, he corresponded quite a bit with Wolfgang Pauli, who was a theoretical physicist and one of the pioneers of quantum physics. And in 1945, he was nominated by Einstein. He received the Nobel Prize in Physics. His discovery about spin theory became the foundation for describing the structure of matter. The Pauli effect was named after the bizarre ability of Pauli to break experimental equipment simply by being in the vicinity. And Carl Jung had a lot of paranormal experiences too.
Interesting.
There's a whole bunch of stuff written about that. Pauli believed that psychic phenomena, including apparent coincidences, were the visible traces of an underlying, untraceable principle in the universe. Now, as a result of a long friendship with Carl Jung was able to crystallize his ideas, and in 1952 he published his essay, Synchronicity, an Acausal Connecting Principle, to describe chance happenings between unconnected people or events. He summarized decades of research and concluding that such phenomena hold important secrets about the deeper nature of reality and the human place within it. And I want to go back to Santa Fe because when I got this place to live and the Eckankar was next door, well, a couple of weeks later, I was looking for a job, and there was another Eckankar who says, "Hey, you could have my job. I'm leaving."
Yeah.
And so I got this job, doing room service at the Hilton in Santa Fe. I was like 20 years
Yeah,
old.
of course.
And this other Eckankar gave me the job. So
Of course.
bing, bing. So all these things happened. And the
Right.
dream, and then the sound of the violins. It's like all these things started happening. Like, whoa. So I really felt like I was being like, initiated into this like inner circle. And I really feel very privileged about it. And it's a privilege to share with the audience. And there's so much more I wanted to say, but I think,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a time
Yeah.
limitation on that,
But we did great, man. That was beautiful.
So Eckankar, this teaching Eckankar, is considered by some as a westernized variation of Punjabi Sant Mat, or the Radha Swaami Sant Mat satsang mystical tradition. Sant Mat refers to a group of teachers that became prominent in India beginning in the 13th century. The teachings are distinguished by an inward, loving devotion to a divine principle. The term Sant, derived from Sanskrit, means one who knows is the truth, or one who has experienced merged into ultimate reality. And within this tradition was Kirpal Singh, a master teacher of this type of Shabd Yoga, the yoga of the sound current. He claimed to be a spiritual descendant of Param Sant Maharaj. Twitchell was a student of Kirpal Singh, and however, drawing on what he had learned, Twitchell, but dropping the Indian cultural trappings, he made these teachings available to seekers as a means of transcendence he called soul travel, giving any genuine seeker direct contact with divine light and sound through a series of contemplative exercises. The meaning of Eckankar is derived from Punjabi, a region of India, and the words Eckankar are found in the Mul Mantar, the first composition in the Sikh holy text. So Eckankar refers to the existence of one constant divine melody. So ek or ek means one.
That's beautiful.
And Oan refers to a sound, and Kar means creation. This roughly translates to the primal sound that created everything. And since Ankara also means worker, Eckankar is therefore defined as worker with the one, or in modern terms, a co-worker with the divine, a co-worker with God. And it consists primarily in following the inner sound or audible life stream. This audible life stream is the cornerstone of the Ek teachings, and is said that something any individual can experience. This current or wave contains the sum of all knowledge and wisdom emanating from the center of creation. Excuse me. The spiritual goal is to become a conscious co-worker with God. So this is all about being awakening to you becoming a conscious worker with spirit. And
Awaking up to that.
Awakening to the love that's there. It's always been there, this field of pure love. So this is a poem is called Journey to a Temple of Light at Agamdes, which is a spiritual city that I mentioned earlier. And here's the painting I drew about this temple that I visited. Wow. And here it is. Traveling at night, in dreams upon dreams, searching for portals of knowledge, it seems, I enter a city hidden from many, created by ancient ones whose training is uncanny. While fully lucid, I'm walking a street, familiar and serene, as if it's my beat. The setting is hypnotic with dreamy night air, as I enter a temple with circular stairs. I was greeted by guardians at every level, who are monitoring my attendance on a granite pedestal. The walls lit up and sparkled with light, as I ascended new levels shown only at night. I entered a gathering of mingling souls, where I found I had on very few clothes. No one noticed, they had no care, I just walked by, suspending all fear. Proceeding ahead to an unusual room, I peered through a window to see something new. Looking out upon a most uplifting scene, the sparkling light pierced my heart, expanding my being. Layers of emotion unravel and heal, helping me feel more whole. I shed a tear of boundless joy, seeing through the window of soul. While I glimpsed the light deep within, with echoes of sound all around, it sings the song of the heavenly place, an eternity for which we're all bound. I make my way out of that space and head down the shimmering halls. The pillars glisten and pulse with gold, a living presence for some to behold. Level by level, I wind my way down out to the evening night. I find a path that leads me home. It's certain to be a flight. The master traveler picks me up in a vehicle with wheels and wings. We soar through valleys of magnificent color and sights of amazing trees. I open my eyes and lay there with thoughts of joy and hope for all. We'll all make our way to this heavenly place, join with our loved ones and know the grace.
Thank you, Neil. So beautiful. Both of those ended with the word grace. Yeah?
They did.
So beautiful.
Yeah, this is the year of graceful living. Wow. In Eckankar. Every year I have a different theme. So graceful living.
Graceful living.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Synchronicities.
Breaking dreams, synchronicities.
That's it.
It's everywhere.
It really is. The more you pay attention to it, the more it shows up too. You're exactly right.
Right. Life is a reflection, like mirrors of our own consciousness. So the waking dream is where our inner self and outer self converge. And it's just having the awareness to notice these convergent points along our life that are there to tell us you're on the right track. Follow your instincts. Don't be afraid.
That's beautiful, man. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom and beautiful experiences today, Neil.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let's do it again soon.
Yeah, I will for sure. Got to figure out what the next subject's going to
be. Dude, yeah, I'm like, we went the whole way. I hope, yeah. I got to digest this first.
There's a lot. Let it digest you and you digest it. Right?
That's it. Heck yeah.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, brother.
I love it.
We'll see you guys next time.
Okay, thanks.
We're in the garden. It's existential.